How can a perfect creator accept an imperfect creation? And yes, I did say imperfect creation. How do we come to terms? Our creator, Yahuwah, he hates sin. Can't stand it. Despises it. He will not tolerate it. Just does not approve of it at all. What you should know is that us, his creation, his greatest creation, mankind, you should know by now that we are not perfect. Okay? Knowing those two things, how can an imperfect creation please a perfect creator? Okay? Well, the basics of that is that Yahuwah had a plan to save us. And that he himself was going to come down in the form of his only begotten Son, Yahushua, aka Jesus Christ. But Yahushua, his Hebrew name. He came down and he ministered and he suffered a very brutal and violent death. Died on a cross, but it's not over yet. He rose 3 days later and surely conquered sin, death, and hell. Okay? That's it in a nutshell. I mean, there's much more to follow, but that's it. Our Creator came down in the form of his only begotten Son, Yahushua, aka Jesus Christ, but Yahushua is his Hebrew name. And he ministered, and he healed, and he did what he had to do down here on earth. But he suffered a very violent death, hung on a cross, died, and 3 days later he rose again. And through him, we could be saved. If we accept his salvation offer, if we come to him and we confess that we are a sinner needing to be saved by his grace and mercy. And he will save you if you sincerely mean that in your heart. But now, there's another issue. After you have confessed your sin and have accepted Yahushua as your Messiah, what do? Do you just go back to your normal lifestyle? The scriptures teach us no. Anyway, when a person repents, they should do it with a broken and contrite heart, a very sorrowful heart, sorry for your sin. And a person that is truly sorry for their sin does not want to return to what they came out of. Okay, first of all, so if you did not come to our Messiah with a sorrowful heart, then you're not sincere. Okay? But here's the thing. After you have accepted the salvation offer, the promise from Yahushua is that he sends his Spirit to live inside of those who have accepted him. Okay? And now that you have his Spirit inside of you, his Spirit will convict you of what is right and what is wrong. And therein lies a choice. Once again, you could either sin and go back to your old lifestyle, or you could go where the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, Spirit of our Messiah, you could go where he wants you to go. Okay? But there's still one key thing. And that key thing is that humanity is still imperfect. It's imperfect. Yahuwah knows that we are not perfect. He knows we're not perfect. Okay? What does this mean as far as the walk of a believer? Well, it means that due to your imperfections, you may make mistakes. You may mess up. Romans 7, verses 14 through 25, Paul was speaking about a struggle, about a duality within him. And I'm going to read it. It says, "For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For what I'm doing, I do not understand. For what I will to do, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do. If then I do what I will not to do, I agree with the law that it is good. But now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me." Keeping in mind that this is, Apostle Paul was saved at this point, but he's speaking that sin dwells in him. Verse 18 reads, "For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, nothing good dwells. For to will is present with me, but how to perform what is good I do not find. For the good that I will to do, I do not do. But the evil I will not to do, that I practice. Now if I do what I will not to do, it is no longer I who do it, but the sin that dwells in me." Once again, keep in mind, he's speaking of a struggle within him, that sin dwells him. This is after he was saved. "I find then a law, that evil is present with me, the one who wills to do good. For I delight in the law of Yahuwah, according to the inward man." He's speaking of the spirit man, Verse 23 says, "But I see another law in my members, it is warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members." And see, verse 24 and 25, a lot of us have felt at one point, or at many points in our walk. Verse 24 says, "O wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death?" That's what we live in. It is a body of death that sin dwells in. In verse 25, he says, "I thank Yahuwah through Yahushua, our Messiah. So then, with the mind, I myself serve the law of Yahuwah, but with the flesh, the law of sin." It's just Apostle Paul sharing with us that he's got to fight within his own body and his own mind. There's two different laws working. I want to point out a key difference in you might have people that have made mistakes and fallen short and sin here and there, but there's a difference in a person who wills to do good, like Apostle Paul speaking here, and a person who does not even will to do good, yet just wants to rebel against our Creator. There's a difference in those two people. There's a difference in falling into sin versus wallowing in it and enjoying it. And our Creator, He is that intuitive. He does look inside of a person and sees their struggles, and I'm not the Creator, so I couldn't tell you how He delegates His mercies. I can't tell you what He decides. He knows. This is why we must be so careful in judging one another. Your flesh, it desires to do that which is exactly opposite of what our Creator desires for us to do and to live holy and all those things. And the Spirit of Yahushua, the Ruach HaKodesh, He desires to please Yahuwah.